So in high school, I was part of the JD TV news crew, JD being my high school, Juneau Douglas. I was part of the news crew, and last year I actually did a story on an event we had called JD Voices or something like that, where our high school had a little event where a bunch of people got together and told stories from their lives that would, be fun for other people to hear. And in my covering of that story, I had to research into it, and I found that it came from a program from our local radio station, which came from a program which was based on a program from a radio station in Anchorage, a bigger city in Alaska, which was based on a program in Baltimore, which was probably based on something else, but I didn't feel the need to go deeper at that point because this was just a story for my high school news. I didn't think it was necessary. So anyways, from then on, I listened to more podcasts. I had listened to NPR and stuff when I was a kid, but I hadn't been listening to podcasts more recently, so I began listening again, which I really took pleasure in, and I've always wondered what it'd be like to do a podcast or something. And I guess this is sort of my attempt at that, essentially just me recording my voice and talking. This is an extension of my personal essay, creative nonfiction essay, at the beginning of the year called A Self-Portrait, self in quotation marks. Much of the process for writing this creative nonfiction essay was taken up by my thoughts on what I would actually write about. And in the past, for many essays, I would write about an event in my family that changed my life, I suppose, which was when my aunt died in the summer of 2012. And it was what I wrote my college essays about and stuff. And I always felt that it was like the defining story in my life where everyone, I don't know about everyone, but I think like a lot of people kind of feel like they have like a story that they tell where everything changed, or it was when they grew as their coming of age story or something, and I always felt like that was mine. But at the same time, it seemed like that was the easy way out. Like I didn't really have to think a lot to write that essay. Like my aunt died, me and my family had to share our small apartment with my cousins, and I took on a lot of new responsibilities that I wasn't really ready for at that age. And that was pretty much the whole story. But again, I thought it was the easy way out of writing this assignment. So I took a step back and I considered a lot of things. So I considered writing the essay that I was supposed to write, that would typically be what one would write about. And I thought, well, is that really what defines me? And then I was like, well, what does define me if that's not it? And I was like, well, do I really have to be defined? Am I defined as a person yet? And so that's what my essay really turned into, was me kind of going through my life chronologically and sort of just examining how my ideas changed from when I was very young to more recently, and how those ideas sort of shaped the way I think of myself today. Although I certainly accept that I am a work in progress. In my essay, I discuss at the end, I liken myself to the Mona Lisa, Leonardo da Vinci's famous painting, which holds a place of mystique in Western culture, really. And you can look it at however you want. You can read the Da Vinci Code, you can watch the Da Vinci Code, but really what history tells us is that Leonardo da Vinci spent years trying to paint this likely commissioned wedding portrait for a woman whose name we know. I don't remember it, but it was a commissioned portrait, and he worked on it until he died. Like, he couldn't get it right. And I mean, isn't that just a metaphor for life in general? So that's why I liken myself to the Mona Lisa at the end of my painting. I'm not trying to be cocky or whatever.